Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Daniel chapter 9, and we're going to continue where we left off. And we're doing this kind of a slower crawl through Daniel because I believe this is a very important prophecy to understand. To me, one of the keys of understanding prophecy. And then, so we're doing a slow crawl doing this. One, we have to understand when we're in Daniel chapter 9 and we're talking about the 70-week prophecy. And when we put that together with the other prophecies, now keep this in mind, we're in chapter 9, so chapter 2 gave us kind of the blueprint of the book. In other words, the prophecies pretty much that we're talking about are from chapters 7 to the end of the book are prophecies that really interpret the vision of the human image in chapter 2. So that's what we're doing. So in what we're doing now is this 70 weeks, which is 70 sets of 7-year period of time. We said that it comes out to something like let me see what I'm gotta do a little cheat sheet here because where is it? So if we say 7 times 70, I should know this. It's 490 years, I know, but so if you do 490 years, okay, so 490 years, and what I want to do is this kind of extra credit that I'm doing here. So 490 years. So then minus 7, that would give us 483 years. Now, with that in mind, 483 years, if we say the Median Persian kingdom was started around 539. Now, this is not going to be an exact. So 539 minus 483, we come within, give or take, right, 56 years then of AD, 0, which would be Jesus' birth, presumably, right? If you start at 80, 0, okay? So then if you go 33 years, you got the Messiah cut off. So the timeline here, depending on, and so the timeline, but that's not the 56 years that we got to play with. Let me show you what I mean here. So remember we said that 70 weeks are decreed upon your people, and then we said 69 of those weeks bring us to the Messiah. So right around the Messiah, right? So then if we say let's kind of go back because I want to, let's go up to, we'll do a little fun fact here, but back to, so when he says 70 weeks are decreed about your people in your holy city, to bring bring the rebellion to an end, to put a stop to sin, to wipe away iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Let me just set up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. So this is a prophecy about what God's going to do with Israel. Then he says, know and understand this from the issuing, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, or 69 weeks. Now, let's do something. Let's go and let's look at when this prophecy was issued here. We're going to go to the book of Ezra. The book of Ezra. Now, The book of Ezra is it is post post exile, right? A post exile time. So Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther are post exile. And you remember in Daniel chapter 9, remember he was reading Jeremiah's prophecy. And then he says, oh, wait a minute now, 70 years were determined for the exile. And as he's reading he said, remember, those 70 years are almost up. Right? Now, at the time that he is discovering this, he's already in the empire of the Medes and Persians. Right? Now, that 52 years I said is not, we can shave off and play around with that because, again, that was just, the 52 years was a timetable from when they conquered Babylon. But here is when the actual 70-week prophecy began. So let's kind of go back and remember what it says here. Verse 25, know and understand this, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. So let's stop. This is the decree. Now, from Daniel's perspective, this was just a few short years in the future, just a few short years. We don't even know if Daniel was alive when this issue began. He was already in the Median Persian kingdom, which this is, but we don't know if he is alive at this point. All right, but this is the 70 years after the 70 years, and so now this is when the prophecy is going to begin. So in verse 1, this is Ezra. Ezra and Nehemiah are one. Ezra was a scribe. I think Nehemiah he wasn't a priest, but he actually was serving in the Medo Persian Empire. I think as a cup holder, somewhere in one of the positions. But anyway, it says in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah was fulfilled. So this is the same. Remember, Daniel was reading Jeremiah, and he says, oh, snap, 70 years, right? This is what he's talking about. The Lord put it in the mind of King Cyrus to issue a proclamation throughout his entire kingdom and to put it in writing. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all kingdoms and earth. Okay, come on, it's over here. All kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed me to build him a house in Jerusalem and Judah. Whoever is among his people, may his God be with him, and may he go to Jerusalem and Judea and build the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. The God who is in Jerusalem, let every survivor, wherever he lives, be assisted by the men of the region with silver, gold, goods, livestock, along with the freewill offerings for the house of Jerusalem. Then he goes, so that, if you go ahead and read now Ezra, this book is a post-exile book. And notice he said, fulfilling the 70-year exile prophecy. Now, when Cyrus issued that decree, he also, by the sovereignty of God, started a prophetic countdown. Okay? He started a prophetic countdown, which is what? 70 weeks. 70 sets of 7-year periods of time. So how do we know this? How do we know that we calculate? I gave you last time one possible method. So I'm not going to say possible because I can't say concretely that that's the method, but we certainly can say it by the timeline that he gives, which is 69 of the weeks brings us to the Messiah. 69 of the weeks, okay? Let me do this here. 69 of the weeks, okay? What year did King Cyrus issue? What I want to say issue. Issue the decree. I think I'm good. All right. All right. So, okay, probably here he's saying around 539 BC. Now these let's see, no. Okay, so some people believe around 539 BC that Cyrus issued this decree. Okay, so if you go all the way down to this 70-week prophecy that brings us about 483 years to Jesus. Okay, and so we know that this time clock. Now, one of the thing about this prophecy here that I cannot say for sure that this is a chronological order, and I'm going to explain that. Okay, I'm going to explain that. The 70 weeks prophecy. Basically, what he's given us here is kind of a timeline, but not necessarily chronological order. In other words, or consecutive, right? So one week after the other. Okay. I'm going to have to explain that because what happens. So I'm going to read the entire prophecy here and then come back and explain it. Know and understand this: from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince will be 7 weeks and 69 weeks. It will be rebuilt with the plough and the moat, but in difficult times. After those 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off. So after 69 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and will have nothing. The people of the coming Prince will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end will come with the flood until there will be war and desolation of war. And I just want to read this first sentence and then stop. Excuse me. He will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he will put a stop to the sacrifice and offerings, and the abomination will be on the wing of the temple. Now, let me stop here because I'm going to come back and explain it to finish it off. So when we look at this 69 weeks here, or the 70 weeks, the reason why I say that this is not necessarily in chronological order, because something happens. He gives us a timeline, and then he gives us a very specific timeline from the issuing of the decree until the time the Messiah comes and is cut off, which is 69 weeks, right? So 69 weeks. So which comes to about 483 years. I don't think it's important to focus on the 483 years, though, because after the 69 weeks, we have a gap. Now, what do I mean by a gap? So if we look at then the timeline, and we see after the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off. And then we come down to verse 27. He will make a firm covenant for many with 1 week. So we know that from this, that this decree, these 70 weeks, are not always in chronological order. And the reason why is because we see a pause here. We see a pause. So let's kind of back up for a moment and then look at prophecy what is the pause? And I'm going to give you, I'm going to tell you what I think the pause is. But the way I kind of describe this is, think about a football game. In fact, think about the Super Bowl game. The Super Bowl, right? Biggest game of the year. And it is an event. It is not only a game, it is an event, right? So you have the two competing top teams, right? And they compete. So what you have is you have a lot of festivities. I'm going to get to the halftime in a moment. But what you have with the Super Bowl is you have the halftime, which now is an entertainment bonanza itself, right? Big top name stars perform. So you have the game, and then you have halftime. Now, so the game itself, when the game is in play, the clock is ticking, right? So the clock ticks, tick, 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 tick. They're playing, right? And then you come to the end of the second quarter, and what do? They stop the clock. And when they stop the clock, the game is on pause, right? And then you go into the halftime, set up the stages and lights and everything, right? And then they have the performance by whatever star they're going to have, right? So the halftime itself is a separate thing that's going on. It's the same event, but it's separate. It's separate, right? So then after the halftime, they clear the field, and then they what? They start the clock again for the final two quarters. So what I like to look at this analogy of the 70 weeks in terms of its timeline, as you have 69 weeks that continues, and then we stop. We come to a stop after the 69 weeks. And the reason why is because the 70th week is the week in which we talk about the beast or the Antichrist. The last 70-week period is that great tribulation period, that 7-year period of tribulation, which is one of the reasons why we say 7-year or 7-year tribulation period. Now, admit it now, not everyone agrees with this view. Not everyone agrees with a 7-year tribulation period. And certainly not everyone agrees with the rapture. Not everyone agrees with even the church age. So I'm gonna say, okay, got it. I do. I hold to the idea of the 7-year tribulation period. Now, I believe that what we have that is kind of the halftime, the in between the 69 week and the 70 week is the church age. Okay, the church age. Now, in the next video, because I don't have time to get into it, I'm going to take time to talk about this church age, how God, in his overall plan, wedges in the church age and why the church age is different than this prophecy here. Because let's go back in verse 24. 70 weeks are decreed about your people, your holy city, to bring the rebellion to an end, to put a stop to sin, to wipe away iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to fill up the vision, and anoint the most holy place. So that's Israel. The 70 weeks, okay, is talking about Israel. And that's important. The 70 weeks are talking about Israel. All the way down to the 70th week. The 70th week is talking about Israel and what's going to happen. Now, how do we know that? Remember when Jesus said, when you see the abomination, that makes desolate, flee to the mountain of Jerusalem. Okay? So now, what is happening between week 69 and week 70? We're going to get more into that in the next video, the next study, guys. So stay tuned. And again, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. Don't forget to like and share this video. Hit like and share the video. Remember, all comments are welcome. I'll see you in the next study.